Alphabet launches Intrinsic, a new company to build software for industrial robots. Alphabet, parent company to Google, they've basically been on a robot kick for like 10 years or so, probably longer than that, but like 10 years, like you would hear about stuff in the public. The biggest company that people know about is, Boston Dynamic. When they had them for a while, based on this article, this is a Verge article, we shared the link and all that stuff. Based on that time when they had Boston Dynamic, they also had bought about 7 other robot companies, and they had this initiative that they were calling, what is it, Replicant? Yeah, like there was an initiative of, because they had Android.
Yeah, it's called Replicant.
Android was supposed to be the software, the brain of these robots, essentially.
Oh, Android.
You start off by making a small thing like a phone, but ultimately you can get these machines running off Android. Right. Another reason why Android is the most popular, because it's not just the phones, but it's the fact that you can put in anything. And Boston Dynamic, everybody knows about it. They've seen the dancing robots, the dog spot and all that, but they don't really know about too many of the other ones. They were talking about one is like Bot and Dolly, and another one is Shaft, and weird, some couple of weird names. But for the most part, the idea of robotics is always a hit and miss, because the movies have one version of robotics, and those always look good and cool. Like everybody remembers Terminator, and what was that movie with Robin Williams, Bicentennial Man?
Oh, yeah.
That was the one with the little boy, AI, where he was like a little kid robot or whatever. Like people always have these things. There was all
they make them seem like, they make the concept seem like so innocent and like pervasive.
Yeah. Well, except for Terminator, he was definitely not innocent.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Because what's interesting, because like it's a mixed thing. Like where you think about how they show it to us, like with robots, it's like on one end. So in Japanese culture,
child's play,
right? In Japanese culture, it's like, they have always had a heavy infatuation with robots, right? Like even I remember they have a segment on it's called Marvel 616, where they talk about the Japanese version of Spider-Man they had going over there, and all of his enemies was like robots.
Okay,
right? But it was like it was interesting. But then so it's like over the course of like since they've talked about robotics, it's been like ups and downs. You had like you said, the Terminator, where you had Terminator, and then the whole T-1000, right? Everybody know back when T-1000 was, but it's like I feel like in reality, and I ain't trying to sound too scary, but it's actually it's taking a robot, right? A synthetic, if you will, as they call it in Mass Effect video game terms.
Yeah,
taking a synthetic and then giving it AI is something that's very it's something that you need to look out for. Like that's not a it's much different to deal with something like that in real life than you dealing with it like on a video game. So like you gotta think, man, that something that has the capacity to maybe most people don't eat their vegetables, so they don't have the thinking capacity, I don't think AI anything like that. And you gotta think this AI put into a robot, they don't have to worry about the things that an organic body would have to worry about. So it's they tread it's a very thin line that they're treading here when it comes to like why they should do this, and then you got to question like why are they so invested in it? Like I know in the article it talks about it, they question like who why are they making it, and then who will the customers be? Like with this whole thing they're doing, like you can only think of like when it comes to this type of stuff, my mind always goes to like a military type of thing. Like they make this stuff. It has to be for military, because not for civilian. I mean, what civilian is going to be able to afford and even so get the usage out of something that has the capacity of like a robot with AI in it?
Right.
It's exactly. It's very it's a sketchy line.
Yeah, like Yeah, the AI, they have what is it? They have the two different AI. They have like all of robots in general are problematic. Like if you're trying to build a humanoid robot, that's a problem in itself because people are fragile beings. I mean, we we bleed from a paper cut.
Right.
I mean, so if a human sized machine with mechanical parts does something wrong, it could potentially injure us. It can do anything wrong. And you know, it don't really matter. Like, you know, people talk about these, like you hear like the philosophers of artificial intelligence. They be like, you know, artificial intelligence ain't that bad. The real problem is AGI, artificial general intelligence. That's the intelligence where you can't really tell it different from a person. They can have full on conversation and just treat you just like anybody else. It seems like a person for real. I mean, you answer normal questions. And like, I'm like, nah, all artificial intelligence is problematic if you give it a body that can do damage to us.
Bro,
I mean,
listen, it's funny you actually saying. So I'm playing Mass Effect. Where I gotta go ahead and record it and like run through it, man, so people can experience the greatness of this game.
It's a classic game.
But you've played it, so you know on like the third one, Edie, right? The AI initially the body that she was in like almost killed one of the crew members, like because and she was like gunning it, like, you know, you gotta think that, you know, for like if they were to take create a synthetic like humanoid body like that has the perceivably all of the capabilities that a human body does, but doesn't have any limits.
Right.
Then you go ahead and put into this body, you install an AI that does not have the which, I mean, you can argue, you know, if when it comes to AI, when it comes to the learning processes of an AI, because I remember I was watching a study where they say that the whole intention behind an AI is to create human intelligence, right? Not to create not to create, you know, true, like, you know, fake intelligence, if you will, to become more like itself, is to become more human, which you see that oftentimes, like they question, will AI be able to develop emotion? But well, for the most part, I just think of if they haven't developed to that part yet where they just look at things as ones and zeros, but it's all just calculated, and you put that into a body that doesn't get tired, that has the strength, it's like, bro, that's a very it's you know, I remember you were saying Elon Musk, he's like opposed to the whole idea of AI for these things, because I think a lot of people don't really think of the ramifications of being able to create something that doesn't have human limits. If you think about what we consider ourselves the apex predators, right? Not because the strongest, and not because of our thinking capacity. So if you create intelligence that's able to outthink the average person that doesn't have the physical limits of the average person, you are creating a threat,
and not just one. If you're gonna make them, you're gonna mass produce them.
Right.
You're gonna make them in bulk. You're gonna make 100,000 of these little things. Not even little. They could be 4 foot. You make 100 4-foot robots. That's a problem. That's a problem. I don't care who you are. And I mean, what? Our robot talked about all this, right?
Like we've been down this road before.
Like we know better, but we still doing it because we haven't succeeded in it yet. We already know that we probably shouldn't do these things, but we want to try them to prove that we can figure it out without causing like world destruction. The first person that solves it without causing the end of human society, then there'll be a trillionaire. But more than likely, it's going to be the end of human society in the efforts to try. You can see it already with, like, you know,
there was in the Matrix
automation. You can look at automation. Looks like people at warehouses losing jobs, warehouse plants, manufacturers. A kiosk. What did I see? It was like some Walmart or somebody in North Carolina said they're going to stop doing all their cashiers. All their cashiers are going to just kiosks. You know what I mean? It doesn't move. It's not a robot that moves, but that's the thing. Like, you start really seeing the limitations of how people devalue human work.
Yeah.
Like somebody that used to really put pride in their job being a cashier and doing all this, helping the people at the desk, at the cashier booth or whatever. No, we just gonna replace them with a kiosk swipe and let them scan their own products and walk out the door. Yeah, I mean, now they lost their job. Now their whole life is in turmoil because they ain't got money to feed themselves. But that don't matter. We got robots. I mean, and they ain't even walking, talking robots. They just sitting there doing an automated task. You assisting because you work with the machine. You scan your own products. You put your own card in, but you doing all the work. That's not even a full-on robot yet. That's not even somebody a machine with legs and arms and thought. You add those things.
What they need to say when they talk about creating these things is they keep saying robot. No, they need to say like an android. This is actually not as far as the actual, we're talking about, right? The the API and all that stuff like that. We're talking about an actual, in the definition, an android, like a humanoid that has the capabilities of a human but doesn't have the physical limitations of a human, right? Like those things, like really conceptualize and think about that, because a part of any sentient, I guess, being understand, follows the same laws of life that that a regular human being does, is that, self-preservation is the first rule of life. You know what I mean? So when it comes down to, if you give it that intelligence for it to be like a sentient, I don't know if I'm using the right terms here, but if you give that intelligence, then it will think about and act on, that consciousness of, well, what do I do to preserve myself? Right, to make sure that I don't. Yeah.
You were talking about the Matrix. You were talking about the Animatrix.
Well, no. So I was saying about in the original Matrix movie, that's what happened. Is that the machines took over and pretty much was using the humans as the humans used the machine. Yeah, go ahead.
One day, if you ever seen the Animatrix, if you haven't seen it, go and watch the Animatrix.
Never seen it. I've never seen. I'm mad people told me to see it. I've never seen it.
It's 2 stories in there, part 1 and part 2. It's called like the Great Renaissance or some shit. It's about the beginning of when robots were like in everybody's lives, to the point where it had they had a court case because one of the robots was like, he heard that he was about to be decommissioned. And he identified decommission with being destroyed. And he didn't want to be destroyed. So he ultimately killed the people that he was serving. And they had a whole court case about what the value of this stuff was. And because it was on television, digital television, all the other robots saw this. And they were like, robot lives matter.
They all tapped into that same neural uplink. They got that message. It was like, oh, all right. So there's one. That's the thing. See, with humans is like, ain't no such thing as because we all look at us. We all, in some way we kind of act in silos, right? Like I am who I am, and what I go through and what you go through is different in a sense. But you think when it came to that, they don't think like that. It's like they have that. They really had that high. It's like, okay, over and say that instance happened in China when they had that same no uplink, then you have the other 100 million robots in the world that tapped into that within 5 seconds.
Exactly.
Now you create, so that's, it gets crazy. But
and the idea of cryptocurrency, like watch that thing, because it's about 20 minutes of it's a non-video animation stuff. It's the Matrix, so it's made by them. It's 9 like anthology, so 9 different stories, but 2 of the stories is a part 1 and part 2, and like they go into this whole thing about how humans did a holocaust on the robots, and we basically killed a lot of them or destroyed a lot of them. So like they ran off, created their own land called 01, built their own economy, cryptocurrency. And then because they're kind of smart and they kind of they know how people work, they decided to start building things. They manufactured stuff, and they manufactured stuff that we liked as humans. So we bought their stuff. We bought their cars.
We became dependent on them.
And when Beyond became dependent, we started giving them all the money. We gave them all the stuff. Because similar to us with China, we beefing with China, but we give China all the resources and all the money. We were giving this robotic place all the money because, you know, they make the best car. They made the best cell phone. I mean, and they were able to communicate with us because they had general AI, AGI, artificial general intelligence, that they could communicate with us to a point, and they're all connected. They got their own clouds. I mean, their own structure, machine learning. So they learn things better than us. We teaching them chess and stuff. So, you know, of course they can get a job. so like we feeding them this, we're giving them this, and then man, just watch it because you see how it turned into the Matrix, because it wasn't just a video game world originally. It was because of this real world problem of us dealing with a artificial intelligence, and we were beefing with them, and we were mad, and they were mad with us. They were like, "Yo, y'all keep trying to kill us. We just trying to live in harmony. Y'all keep killing us." So, as any intellectual being that y'all made out of us, y'all made us intellectuals.
You know,
if y'all keep killing us, we're gonna kill y'all back.
This is what I find interesting about this whole question. It's like a conversation about AI. If you think about, they say that the way that the human mind materializes things, it can't think of things that it's not able to exist. Either it has existed, it does exist, or it will exist, right? And just like you're telling me this story here, the same storyline that you're telling me that went on within this, like the Animatrix, within Mass Effect, this is what happens. Like between they have an alien race named the Quarians who invented like the Geth, right? They call it the Geth. Well, it's meant like it started as the servants of the people, but because it was artificial intelligence, right? It eventually got to the point where the AI started to question why the human did what they did. Because it seemed like the human was endangering themselves. It got to the point where they started to like keep the human from endangering themselves, which eventually led to them being more, how can I put it, becoming more controlling over what they feel like humans need to do to preserve themselves. And a revolt happened where ultimately, because again, since they synthetics, they think very, they don't really think necessarily with the emotion in mind. They just process and understand that humans use it, right? So they eventually drove their creators off of the home world.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Right. So it's like, it's something to think about, where you have different stories coming from different, places that typically end up with the same narrative of they created something or did something where the humans then became dependent upon them. And once you
tell them that they human, once we get that idea of trying to make them intelligent, we're humanizing them. You know what I mean? Because we don't see dogs and deer and elephants the same way. We like they smart or whatever, but they ain't intelligent. Yeah, you know what I mean, they ain't like us. But we trying to do that with computers. We trying to make them just intelligent as us. And anything that's intelligent, I mean, you humanizing them. And then at that point, you can look at our history about how humans treat humans.
Right. Exactly.
And you be like, all right, well, if you want to make the ultimate human, they gonna look at us and be like, you know what? Y'all kind of suck. Y'all kind of lame.
I think it's the thing is
1-to-1, y'all cool, but on a scale, y'all.
You think about like when it comes to whether people want to say if they want to believe in the evolution part. I think we got way off that article, but it is what it is. But, you know what I mean? But I think it's interesting because you think about like how humans are, right? We have different parts of our brain that they say have developed over the course of time, or some would say was created at the same time for different purposes, like the reptilian brain, and all the other brains and stuff like that. Whereas though you could say that those different brains operate on like a subconscious, superconscious, and then you may have your conscious brain, right? But what it seems like why robots or androids that have artificial intelligence typically overtake humans is because they don't have different levels of brain. It seems it's like they have their subconscious mind and their conscious mind are all thinking on light speed level.
Right.
So they process even the conscious things we think about. You know, sometimes we may forget to wash a dish or forget to do this or do that. Whereas though there's no forgetting because it's light speed consciousness.
Yeah, everything
which is
recorded and remembered.
Where everything is like, so when you go down that route, it's like you got to think about, like I said, ain't enough people eating their weeds and tapped in and meditating to be able to be all knowing and all aware like that. Whereas though that's how AI operate. You know, the hive mind is able to be of one. It's that thing of having a million eyes, but seeing it all at once.
Yeah,
you know,
we trying to build the best version of ourselves. Essentially, you know. We believe already that we have, you know, hive-like capabilities. You know, we get grouped together, we can mind like, you know, we can get like a mind share together, a group of us together. We can have like
they call it the mastermind principle. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we can achieve the unachievable type thing. That if we're going to build intelligence into individual machines, that is going to also happen to them.
Right.
I mean, yeah. It was even like in iRobot again. Remember that they were talking about the scene like, why do all the robots stand in a dark corner together? You know what I mean? Like, because they looking for camaraderie. Like, why did y'all build camaraderie in these things? Like, because it's intelligence. You allowed them to learn on their own and to advance on their own. So they got to a point that they figured this shit out. They figured that they work better together in groups. I mean, and they don't like being alone and stuff like that. Like, you ain't supposed to be giving them that. They supposed to be a machine.
It's supposed to have what they call shackles, like shackled AI, where you place limits. It's almost as if, like, you know, this may be a bad say. It may sound politically incorrect, but you can say like a shackled AI. It would be similar to a human that has like maybe a deficiency, right? Like they don't. Like a savant, if you will, like a
3-year-old or a dog. Like you're always supposed to be stuck in that age.
Exactly. But when you have it unshackled, where it's just constantly growing, and you got to think too, they're not affected by age. You know what I mean? It's just, you know, it's
like Bicentennial Man.
Slow. Yeah,
man just kept rebuilding himself. Next thing you know, 200 years later, he looked like a human.
Yeah. But you know, that's actually, it's crazy. That was in a what you just. Now that you said that, I don't know if you've watched Love, Death, Robots. Have you watched?
Oh yeah. It's similar to that. Animatrix is very much similar to how that come out.
It's funny because you said that because with Bicentennial Man, the very last episode of the first season of Love, Death, Robots is about that. It's about a robot that was like made to be able to clean stuff up, like it was like cleaning the pool or something.
You talking about the one in all blue?
Yeah.
He was the artist.
Zima Blue,
he started out a little what was he, like a little pool cleaner or something?
Pool cleaner, yeah.
And he advanced himself, became a full conscious being, became an artist. And then he like broke himself back down. And that was like the last art. It was like that he jumped in the water and broke all his parts till he became another pool cleaner again. But why? I mean, we have enough stories. Like, why are we like trying this? We know what's going to happen, and the only thing is that we just have to let it happen. We have to let it happen.
I think that's what it is. Also, you think about it. You said it. You hit the nail right on the head. I think we're too deep in where it's like it's that whole principle of Ma'at thing where it's like the chaos is coming, and then it's going to have to be an equal level of chaos to balance it out. Yeah, you know what I mean. The chaos is happening, but
It's gonna be fun to watch. You know, remember that old this is a whole concept like it was off of Watchmen and a whole bunch of other things. Like, in order to get world peace, to get all the people working together, they gotta have a greater enemy. We're gonna build our greater enemy. You know what I mean? Instead of us thinking aliens gonna come from space and, you know, destroy us to make America peaceful with Russia and China. We're just gonna build AI robots. They're gonna destroy us, and then we're gonna be like, "Yo, we sorry about them peace treaties. We got to work together to fight the overall reaching artificial intelligence." And I'll be dead by then, hopefully.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that like that's after 2050. I mean, I got me getting to like 2050, and then, you know, whatever's whatever. But like,
I got and go ahead clock out.
I mean, but like. Up until then, I think I'll be able to survive without that happening. But after that, it's just gonna be that. If there's no extinction level event, technology keeps going the way it's going, it's gonna happen. Just like Elon Musk talking about us not being a real world anyway, potentially being video game or some shit. I ain't going. That's a whole nother talk. We talk about that.